going to talk to you about strengths. Okay? We all know that there are some things we are good at and something we are not good at. The things we are weak parts, we really dedicate lots of time to think about. We think about how can we make ourselves better, how can we fix our downsides, and we don't focus that much about what we do really well and enjoy doing. So my talk about strength will be at first personal, and then we'll go on to my professional life. So this is Tamar, my first kid. And when she was about 6, I went to various professional therapists and doctors in order to understand what is the origin of her difficulties. And they all really easily told me she has learning disabilities. None of them really thought about her capabilities. None of them really thought about assessing or measuring her powers. None of them even mentioned the power of her capabilities and what the potential she might have. Focusing on strength really makes sense to me. It's like when you go to the gym. You can try to work out the weaker muscles, which is kind of hard, and you don't like it. But you can go and do something which you are very good at, and then you just exercise really. It's fun for you. And when you focus on your stronger muscles, it will strengthen your weaker muscles. And it's not only me. Researchers found that once you focus on what you're good at, you'll get much better results than trying to fix your weaknesses. So I think you're more or less thinking, what is this connected to us? Because when people think about UX, they think about wireframing, problem solving, etc. They don't think about anything connected to strength. But what about when you go into the UX process? Can you harness your potential, your powers, your strength into your UX process? Startups have lots of these, and they should do that. So I guess you all heard about fails of startups. How do they fail? What should they do differently? And when you think about startups, they try to do things better all of the time. Yeah, you know, they need to focus on limited cash flows and resources and limited resources. They're fast-changing environments, and they don't have any reputation. Some of them don't have any users. They're unstable, right? So you all know that as startups. But when you think about it this way, when you think about weaknesses, it doesn't really make sense that any startup could ever outcompete a bigger, more established product, right? In this talk, I'm going to talk about the strength of a startup. What is really, really good and beneficial for them. So I'm going to talk about 5 strengths. They are here in front of you. And I'm going to start with the first one, focus. The fact that startups has less resources and less times and less developers makes their UX better. Why? Because they focus only on the most important parts and features of their application, right? So it's like the old saying, if you try to chase 2 rabbits, you catch none. When you are thinking about startups which are very successful, like Instagram, Trello, or Dropbox, they all do one thing, but they do it really, really well. Okay? So they focus on only the essential parts of the application. So I'm going to tell you a story about Trello. Everyone knows Trello? Yeah? Project management simple tool. So back about 2008, Joe Spolsky, the founder of Trello, was part of the Microsoft Excel team. He was one of the workers in the Excel team. And he said that they wanted to meet their users and to really understand them. In 1993, they went to visit users. And then they found out that they don't do what they think they usually do. They don't do any calculations or macro on all of the complex things that Excel is full with. They just want to see tables. And then he thought to himself, that's strange. That's all they want to do. And he says that this is the first time that Trello was created in his mind, the fact they can view something very simply. So Trello takes the sticky board idea into its next level. And it makes the project management really simple. It's much more simpler than the previous solutions with Gantt and dashboards and all of the documents connected to that. And this is one of the biggest strengths of this specific application, and Trello is very successful for that. The next thing I want to talk about is the fact that you're building something from scratch. You know, startups do it from the beginning, a fresh new product. It's like a baby. It's lots of work, but the possibilities are endless. You can do whatever you want, right? When you think about your competitors, they have an established product, right? But they worked very hard on it, and they did it with past technology and past understanding of the user's needs, and they've done so much work, so they feel obligated to the product itself. So they are obligated to their clients and their users. They're obligated to the team and the board. And even if they try to do something differently, they can only change the margins. They cannot really do something from scratch. It cannot change it. So a great example for doing something much better would be Uber. Who knows Uber? Everyone? Okay, Uber is a shared ride, shared economy mobile application, allowing people to ride some kind of cabs. And Uber is focused on two sides of the story. It demonopolized the cab industry and disrupted the whole service. On the one side, you have the people who want to take the ride, and they want to do it in a reasonable price, really easily. And they know the cost in advance in case of Uber. They can track the drivers while they come to their location. They can rate the driver and pay really easily. So it's a problem solver for riders. On the other hand, you have the drivers. So they can work full-time or part-time, driving their Uber cabs, and they don't need to split their earnings with the cab station, which is very important in today's financial markets. And they did it very well. And this is one of the most essential aspects of Uber, the fact that it started from scratch and it did everything much better than it was. So it's a fresh, new, better product. The third thing I want to talk about is creativity. And being creative means that you think about a solution for a problem in a very different way, an out-of-the-box way. Startups really do that really well, and one of the basic elements of a startup and the values of a startup is doing things creatively, thinking differently. When you think about older, more corporate employees, they are less demanded to think creatively. They usually think traditionally, and it's one of the parts that corporates try to change. But the fact that it's a big company and lots of layers and hierarchies makes their life really very hard, and they cannot really be that creative as a small startup, and although they do try. Snapchat is a great example for that. Okay, who knows Snapchat? Everyone? Okay. So Snapchat is a fun tool. And they do everything differently. What's different in Snapchat? First, messages self-destruct after they are read. You view the videos vertically instead of horizontally. They don't track their users. They don't collect too much data, so they cannot target ads to them. And they think very differently about the UX itself too, because when you open it, it doesn't really make sense, and it's not that easy to understand in the beginning, because you get this camera and you don't know what you are going to do, what are the options. So it favors fun and exploration over ease of use, which is very creative, and it's it's a great solution for their own audience, the younger audience. And they do it very well. And one of the things that makes them so successful, they're estimated in about $10 to $20 billion, is the fact that they do things really differently. Another thing that startups know, that they'll do mistakes. It's the basis of everything. They know they'll do mistakes, and they know they learn from it, and they know they collect information while doing so. So when you do mistakes, you do things in a very open-minded state, right? So when you think about it, that successful companies spend years of tinkering and trial and error in order to get their solution, it really makes sense that you should make mistakes and you should learn from them. And this is the best way to come about to your solution. It's like what Thomas Edison said when he was asked about the light bulb. I did not fail. I just found 10,000 ways that doesn't work. Okay, so this is the same. What you do is just the same that as Thomas Edison said. So Slack is a very interesting solution found after a mistake and after a fail. Back in 2007, a team of developers all over the US worked for 4 years on a game called Glitch. Glitch was a solution, a multiplayer game, online game, based on Flash, and it failed. So what they decided to do, they pivoted the messaging element of the game, and this is how Slack came about. Their solution is very successful, and it's based on a mistake. And when you think about it, doing mistakes sometimes gets you to a better solution, to a better state. The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that good startups that you should do is listen. When you listen to someone very carefully and you care about what they say, you get information which is very essential for you. Startups don't really know their users, and even if they have users, they are not that much. So they have the option to really listen and listen very carefully. When you think about your competitors or big companies, they have millions of users. So they don't really get to the information. They get surveys, or they know something from support or from sales, from PM. They have like analytics and dashboards, but they don't really sit and listen. They don't really want to know them. Startups want to know the basic behavior, the desires, the expectations of the users in order to really understand what their product is about. Back in 2007, two guys in San Francisco, they had a conference in San Francisco in their city, and they found out that all of the hotels are fully packed. So they thought about it and say, why not? We can have a good solution here. They inflated 2 inflatable mattresses and placed them in their living room and listed them online. In fact, the air inside these mattresses is the air in Airbnb. Okay. So it really worked very well. And they started from a niche that they called themselves the eBay of space, like when you have something that you don't want and you and you don't use, you can sell it online on eBay, right? So the same thing would be in the Airbnb. If you have a couch or a spare room, you can list it online on Airbnb. And they wanted to understand their user much better. They decided to go and list places online in their own platform on Airbnb and to talk to the users while spending time in their apartments. So they flew to New York. Most of their users were from New York, and they met one of the users and they talked to him. And the talk really changed everything for Airbnb. They met a guy who was a drummer for Barry Manilow as a musician. And then he told them, I'm going away with Barry for a tour in about like 2 or 3 months, and I'm not at home for a whole week. So I want to rent out my whole place, my whole apartment. I'm not here. And then they thought about it and say, yeah, why not? We can list a whole apartment. We can enable this feature in our product. And this is what they do. And today, a really huge portion of $30 billion worth of Airbnb is through the whole apartment, whole house renting listing online, which is very important. So what I talked about is 5 strengths that you all have and you should focus on and you should understand really essentially to your needs. 1, focus on what's needed. 2, do something from scratch and do it better for your user needs or for the current user needs. Be creative while doing so. Make mistakes and learn from them, and listen very carefully to your users. So there's always a choice in life and UX. In the case of Tamar, we chose to focus on our strength, and today she's dancing and making her friends laugh. So what I'm really saying is, it doesn't really matter if the glass is half empty or half full. Just be glad that you have a glass to work with, and remember, the fact that it's half empty means that there is always more room for wine. Thank you.